Will you pay for Twitter's subscription plan? This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by the Wondery Business Movers podcast, the enlightenment of Steve Jobs, in Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and in the Wondery app. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Tuesday night, so this is MacVoices Live. We are live with our friends on YouTube. We are live with the chat room on YouTube. We would love for you to join us. YouTube.com/MacVoices TV is where you can go. If you're there, if you're listening to us, you're probably already there. If you're not, then get in there and say hello. We'd love to have you. Tonight, folks, well, first of all, it's kind of surprising that we're back at all after last week's show, because last week's show was a bit off the wall. But really, we're kind of in an Apple news lull as we wait for WWDC and everything else. So we picked up a couple topics, and we're going to run them around. If chat room, if there's something you'd like to have us discuss or have thoughts on, please let us know. And the same goes for the panel. If something comes up during the discussion, throw it out there. And we will try to pick it up and run with it. But first, let's find out who's here. So again, I've been kind of trying to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to go from the bottom of my screen up. That puts Mark Fuccio at number 1. Mark, good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Hello, everyone. No topics, should be fun. Open mic Tuesday.
Open mic Tuesday. Open mic Tuesday. Will you be singing or doing stand-up?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. We can hardly wait. Jim, Ray, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Glad you're back. You're muted, Jim.
I didn't go anywhere.
Okay, well, we're glad of that.
I've been here all week waiting for this camera, other people to show up.
And as Jeff Gammett said, you sound luscious. So good job. Good job. I can't believe he's back after what happened last week. Jay Miller is back. Jay, great to have you.
For the record, I said I wouldn't be back, and then Chuck said, "Don't you dare take this comedic gold away from me."
I don't remember saying comedic. I'm not sure it was gold, but okay. But yes. No,
I mean, would Batman be as interesting if the Joker didn't exist? Like, they go together. It's like peanut butter and pickles.
Okay, you better work on your metaphors, Jay. You better work on it. But no, I love the contentious opinions.
Or his diet.
That's great. Jeff Gammett is here. Jeff, thanks for showing up again just to watch this fiasco.
How could I miss it? I mean, this is the best entertainment all week long. And getting a front row seat, well, that's just delicious.
Next up is Mike Schmitz, who proved himself to be an Iron Man this afternoon because he is here after doing a 3-hour training session. Mike, it's great to have you. I knew you wouldn't be here tonight, and son of a gun, here you are.
Yeah, well, the schedule worked out, so I'm muscling through. But I had a lot of fun last week trying to talk some sense into Jay about Keynote versus Google Slides, so thought I'd continue tonight. So good.
Jay needs all the help he can get. Yeah.
I will not say those words at all today.
David Ginsburg is with us. David, good to have you as always.
Great to be here. And yeah, after last week, it was a little crazy. But this week will probably be even crazier.
Well, as we record this, I'm getting ready to edit. I'm editing and getting ready to release that show again. As we record this, it'll be out tomorrow. And just going through, I laughed the whole time. I mean, it was absolutely great.
It was fun.
It was so much fun. Last but absolutely not least, tonight with a hat, Mr. Frank Petrie. Frank, you look so stylish.
There's no hair under there.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, but the glare, it sort of blinds people, doesn't it?
Powder. You just need to powder the top of your head.
Either that or just get a magic marker. Do Groucho. Just grease paint the whole thing.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, gentlemen, we said this was open mic night because we didn't want to just create Apple News where there really wasn't any. And so, David, you gave us one of the first topics, and so I want you to give us a little detail on Twitter and its new Blue subscription.
Yeah, it was an interesting story. It leaked because Twitter wasn't planning on telling people about it, and apparently they had to confirm. Yeah, they plan to launch a new subscription tier called the Twitter Blue, which is a new purchase option, and it's going to be available on the iOS App Store. And it looks like they're going to be doing some stuff here with content, with being able to add themes and be able to add all kinds of other collections. And there really isn't a lot of detail just yet. But the reason I brought it up because is this going to be a trend of something for the future? Well, Facebook think of doing something like this of a service that they may want to charge for, and being able to add things that you can't normally add in a normal Twitter feed, and maybe it'll reduce some of the noise that we all experience on Twitter all the time. That we could potentially see something that would give us a place that might not be as bad, but I'm curious to see where this goes, and I thought I'd open up to the panel what everybody else's thoughts were as far as is this potentially a trend, with other social media networks? Could Instagram do it? Could Facebook do it? Could any of the other big ones? Could they do it? I'd like to know what everybody else thinks.
Is it ad free? That's the only question that I had with it, because I don't think I got a solid answer on that.
There isn't any answer on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to pay for something and then also have them make money off of me at the same time in that manner. It seems kind of ugly in a way. But I mean, other than that, if specialty tweets and all this other stuff, I mean, sure, whatever, that's fine. I mean, I already pay for Tweetbot, which is the current 0 ads on Twitter experience. So paying for it there versus paying for it on Twitter and getting more features, it seems like a no-brainer to me. But if they're going to give me all this stuff in ads, then I'll just stick with Tweetbot for now.
Yeah, it looks like they're saying that you can undo tweets, and there's collections that you could put together. So they're saying as well. So I mean, I don't know if that's going to justify me wanting to pay $3 a month for just that. It's got to be. I think they need to have some more meat in this to make it more attractive. I think this is
going to prove how many Twitter users are liars. Yeah. Because there's so many people over the years that have said, I would pay for undo. Well, now you get to, and we'll see how many of those people actually pony up.
No, they said pay for editing. They didn't say pay for undo, which I think that's where a lot of people are getting
that's
fed
really
up.
A good point. Yeah.
And I do like the fact that they've chosen undo instead of edit. I mean, a lot of people, obviously, we're screenshot wizards. Someone says something, it's screenshotted immediately. That's never going to change. But an undo puts a timer on it. You're not going to just go back, say something, and then a week later, after it's gotten a whole bunch of vitriol and backlash, go, my bad, undo. With this, it's like, I messed up on a typo or something. Let me undo that really quick and adjust it. I'm okay with that.
I guess the question is it undo or is it, I mean, what's the difference of it being a delete? Because that's what people do when they, like you just suggested, they delete their tweet. I mean, but the damage is already done. Everybody's already, if it's a big tweet, people have already screenshotted it and they've got it everywhere anyway. So,
and it's still on their server.
Yeah.
The difference is that supposedly the way this works is that you can write a tweet and then it goes into a holding window. And during that window from when you wrote it to when it actually publishes, you can go in and undo or edit the tweet.
Part of me wishes that feature was
it's a cool down button. So people, instead of being, fire spitting mad and angry or drunk, they can put in the whole queue and come back and revisit it and decide, do I really want to post this? So it's sort of an adult moderation function, which I think is a much more descriptive term than hold.
But it makes me wonder if it's in a hold, then I mean, I get it. It's like having an email queue, something that holds your email for a few minutes before you send it. But I'm not sure that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I would. I theoretically would pay for this because I don't delete tweets unless I've made a typo and I delete them quick and then repost them with the correction. So I'm not deleting something, heinous or whatever, like some folks do. Would I pay $3 a month for that?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure about that. But on the other hand, the idea of supporting a social network, I guess what the big problem I have with this is that it's not going to cut down on any of the junk. It's just going to allow people to undo things or edit things, maybe delete them. We aren't quite sure about that. But it really doesn't solve one of the problems that we have with social media, and that is just all the bots and all the junk.
I just wonder if people are going to go into different camps, if eventually other social media sites will follow the subscription idea. And then people will have to pick, oh, no, I go on Twitter, I pay Twitter. And oh, no, I'm over on Facebook. And there's no way like to cross-reference or anything.
We already have that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of people that they have the one platform that they will use and won't touch any of the others.
I know I have 6 different apps because I have 6 different friends that refuse to use the other apps. And they insist on it. And this was this weekend. I went in and I pulled off 4 of them. It's like, I talk to those people once or twice a year. Screw it. I don't need all those apps.
Mike, you just threw something in our private chat room. I'm going to rethrow it into the YouTube chat room, but I'll let you talk about it.
Well, I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. So I just pulled up the TechCrunch article, which kind of talked about it. And they linked to this tweet, which makes it look like the undo thing is kind of like an undo send for Gmail in the web interface, where you've got like 10 seconds. It's got an animated GIF, which shows like a countdown timer. And if you hit the button before the 10 seconds is up, you can pull it before it goes live. Yeah. I'm not the type of person who tweets that quick, and that quick can also identify when I've said something stupid and pull it back. So this feature would be completely useless to me. I'm also a little bit, I don't like this $2.99 tier that Twitter is basically promoting to give people the good version of the app. It makes it seem to me like they're looking at the third parties, like Tweetbot. I use Twitterific myself. Both of those are subscription services, and they're much, much better ad-free experiences. I like Twitterific because you can just muffle stuff. So I muffle all of the political stuff, and my Twitter is a much more pleasant place. And that's the kind of thing that you don't get in the normal app. And it looks like the normal app, they're looking at it and they're saying, well, people are obviously willing to pay for a better Twitter experience. So what can we give people? But the undo button, that sort of thing just seems like, if that's a good feature, it's a good feature, and you should add it to your service. You shouldn't make people pay for it so they have a less sucky experience with the app.
Yeah, but what I don't understand is 10 seconds. If 10 seconds is all you have to come up with the idea that what you said was heinous, you probably spent about that much time just blowing the thing out. So are you really 10 seconds? Is that enough time to process?
Nope.
No, not at all.
No, if you're lucky, it's enough time to realize that you have a typo.
Yes.
The other thing that feels very sleazy about this being charged by Twitter themselves is you've already got a bunch of my info. So I'm already paying you indirectly for using your service.
True.
I mean, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but just watch The Social Dilemma and you won't ever view social media the same again. Facebook is definitely the worst one. Like, you are the product when it comes to Facebook, but I think you could say the same thing about any of the social media platforms that we tend to prefer, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, whatever. So it feels weird for me if they're going to collect this data and they're going to use that and they're going to profit off of that, but also they're going to charge us money. That just doesn't sit right.
Okay, folks, hold on. Here comes Jay.
It's
Oh.
it's nothing crazy. When Mike was talking about how this seems to be one of those situations where it's like, we have a good idea, we should charge people for this instead of just giving it to everybody. And I 100% agree with that. I think that it should be applied to everyone. If it's a feature that you think is really going to make the Twitter experience better, make it available to everyone. If you want to do the curated stuff, cool. If you want to do the, again, no ads, 100% on board with that. I already pay for Twitter through a third-party client, so I might as well just pay Twitter itself to not try to track me. However, I often see stuff like this where they're like, we did this thing, we're innovating, which immediately took me to the Apple, I forgot what event it was, but some Apple event where you have someone there and they just go, can't innovate my ass.
That was Schiller.
I thought it was Schiller. I didn't want to make any, I didn't want to say something and,
that was the
besmirch
garbage
anybody.
can. The garbage can.
So here's my thought with this. Twitter has to prove to people that they can innovate. Twitter has to prove to people that they're still relevant. Outside of our ecosystem, where most of us are promoting podcasts, talking to our very close friends, Twitter has become, in my opinion, the last place in the social media war for attention. I mean, LinkedIn is a more fun experience than Twitter at times, which is saying a lot.
That's really saying something.
Yeah.
It is.
Now, again, TikTok has its generation of folks, and honestly, a lot of older folks are getting onto TikTok. Instagram has its place. Facebook has its place. Twitter seems like the only service that has a lot of potential, but is having a problem innovating on that potential that they have. And if I mean, an undo button, if they want to put it behind a paywall, that's fine. Twitter, just start doing something. I mean, the last thing you did was Spaces. I feel like Twitter Spaces is going to probably be a good product, but it's Clubhouse. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Clubhouse. It's someone else's innovation. It's what Facebook has been doing for years that we yell about every time they do it. I would rather see Twitter start thinking about how can we be different than all of the other social media companies, instead of being, how can we adopt the Facebook strategy of just waiting for some, VC backed product to come out and then just taking it and turning it into a feature in their own service.
I want to take a quick pause to welcome Brittany Smith. Brittany, welcome back from vacation. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
That's good. If only you had been here last week. Oh my.
Oh my, that would have been an interesting thing.
Yeah. Those are shows you're going to have to watch, Brittany, just to appreciate
okay.
what happened.
Or maybe I should save myself the headache.
No. I'm hoping you can explain this to us, what happened, but that's another show.
Oh, I don't know. Might be above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be.
So we're talking about Twitter charging $2.99 a month for their Blue subscription, and that's, I don't know if you were listening in before you joined, but that's where we are at the moment.
So I missed all the dub is what you're saying.
Yeah, we didn't actually do any dub. We just decided, it's all going to be speculation. We're going to know by the time close to the time this comes out. So we just punted. Sorry. Jay, I kind of agree with you. I mean, it's part of a service that I'd like. I don't know, man. $2.99 a month. I mean, if they're trying to create a revenue stream, that's great. It just doesn't feel like it's enough. If they want to charge me $20 a year for it, maybe. But this seems like a blatant attempt to just get me to give them my credit card and then kind of conveniently forget about it. Mm-hmm. That I think is one of the things that bugs me the most, because Twitter is still my favorite platform. And to Mike's point, if you manage your Twitter connections properly, it can be a very valuable, very enjoyable service.
So I want to throw out there, you feel free to respond to this, Jay, but there's another piece to this conversation, I think, which is the super follows, which has yet to be officially announced. But that's a way where potentially you can support your favorite creators. As a creator myself, that's really appealing to me. And if Twitter's going to take a percentage of that, go ahead. If you make it easy to support, for someone to support my work, like a Patreon sort of a model, then go ahead. You deserve a cut for making that easy. But I feel like maybe there's a link here between these two that we don't really see yet. That one feels like more of a thing than this does.
I would be really upset if I had to pay $2 a month or $3 a month or whatever for Twitter Blue, and then on top of that also having other features within Twitter being locked away until I give them more money. And I mean, I get like I'm supporting creators, which as a creator, I get that. I want that to happen. I agree with you on the idea of, hey, Twitter, don't charge me extra for things that should just be in your app for free. Charge me for the things that it costs you to create. And again, if you're saying, hey, we use your user data to pay for keeping the servers running, that's fine. How much does it cost for my user data? I will give you that money. Like, that's fine. If it's $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever, I will pay it because I'm already paying it. On the other side of that, I think, again, what Twitter is trying to do is say, hey, we can innovate. What Twitter seems to be doing is saying, hey, we can throw a bunch of the things at the wall that other people have tried and have seen some success in, and let's see which one of these best sticks for us. I mean, again, they created TikTok before it was, they bought TikTok before it was TikTok, even before TikTok ever existed, when they bought Vine. And they could have turned Vine into something that could eventually become TikTok, and instead they shut it down. I don't trust building an empire on Twitter because I don't trust Twitter to be a good, custodian of that empire. Like, I would much rather put it in the hands of, honestly, at this point, sadly, Amazon through Twitch, because they've proven that Twitch is going to be its thing. YouTube, because there is longevity in it, something that I never thought a Google product would ever have longevity. But at the end of the day, Twitter has failed time and time again to innovate in a way that seemed to be worth paying for. And this is like just another example of that to me.
I agree wholeheartedly with Jay on that. I think that Twitter has come out, and they had many fails. Forever, it seemed it took them to come out, to have advertising. I don't find it particularly effective. It just seems like it's a lot of crap and junk, stuffed into my feed. A lot of stuff is just completely irrelevant. So to the extent that Jay says, oh, Twitter knows a lot about us and they're monetizing it, I don't have any direct proof that that's true. So I think that they've just been bad at managing their product. They've been bad at understanding who their customer is. They've been bad at introducing new innovations. So I think this is just their latest idea, and 6 months, 12 months from now, it may be around, or it may just die an unsilent death. Because I think the reality is that yes, there is a very core of active Twitter users, but I think a lot of occasional people, if they start to think that this is a way they can charge, the casual user, they're going to see their MAUs, their monthly active users, go down the toilet, and that's going to take the stock with it. So I think they're just blindly in trying to do things and innovate without any clear idea of who it adds value to and why. Because so again, this somebody it said it's posited a 10-second holdback period. That's quick enough. You can realize, oh, holy crap, I spelled that wrong, or holy crap, I didn't put the link into that tweet or something. But in and by itself, that's not really very, very useful. So I think this is, it smells to me like Microsoft of old, of they make changes just for the sake of making changes, so that the next version of N+1 of Windows or Office or something is different. And they can crow about all the hard work all their engineering teams did and it's something that may just completely fall flat with their users.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by the Wondery Business Movers podcast. From the iPhone to Pixar, Steve Jobs led a career full of groundbreaking innovation. But his road to success was a rocky one, filled with legendary failures and burned bridges. From Wondery, on the new season of Business Movers, learn how Jobs took Apple from near disaster to total triumph. Steve Jobs had a knack for seeing the big picture, that a computer-animated film like Toy Story could be the future of movies, or that a phone in our pockets could give us a universe of information at our fingertips. From the makers of the hit series Business Wars comes the new season of Business Movers, a weekly podcast that explores the legendary and controversial career of Steve Jobs. If you're an Apple fan, and you almost certainly are if you're listening to or watching MacVoices, then this is a must-subscribe podcast. Steve Jobs was a complex-driven leader of several companies that changed the rules and whose influence continues to this day. This Business Movers series helps bring to light exactly how it all transpired. Listen to Business Movers, The Enlightenment of Steve Jobs on Apple Podcasts, on Apple Music, or you can listen 1 week early and ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app. Wondery, feel the story. Thanks to Wondery for their support of MacVoices. Retro Rewind in the chat says he's in with what Jay said. Cletus says he's an occasional user. So there you go. There you go.
What I'm hearing right now is the notion that Twitter has been successful in spite of itself.
Yes.
It's a wonderful product. They just
That was a good summary, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think they were, Jeff. I really don't remember the exact chronology between them and Facebook, but it felt like Twitter, because of the limited character length, it was always a lot more focused. It was always a lot less rambling and fluffy. And then it turned into a platform for every cause that you can think of.
Yeah, well, if you look at the big picture of Twitter, they got popular because of some great third-party applications, and they took the ability to make good third-party applications away. Then they slowly gave little bits and pieces of it back. And they're trying to just say, no, we can do this better, but they can't.
No, even when they bought the best application, they still couldn't do it better.
Yeah.
Because they ultimately screwed that up.
Well, sadly, I think it's a leadership thing. I mean, when your CEO is CEOing for several companies, you can't. I mean, I'm not gonna besmirch Apple too much, but there was a period of time where a lot of people said Apple's leadership has lost its way. That was before I was an Apple user, so I can't speak to it, but I hear so many times about, back when, remember when Apple was ran by that guy who ran Pepsi? Like, I mean, people are just like, that was the Apple of old, or that was the bad Apple, or the dark times, or whatever. So now it seems like a leader at the top that can drive and understand what the focus of the company is so important to any major company. At this point, like Jack Dorsey has to decide what's more important to him, which in my opinion, honestly, should be Square. Square is making him way more money than Twitter is at this point. But that said, that means he needs to step aside and let someone else run Twitter with Twitter's best interests in mind.
I don't know.
Not me.
Yeah, something Mark said that really did strike me, that they're trying to innovate. They took the one thing that people have said they wanted for a long time and said, okay, that's going to be our niche, at least in this round. That's going to be what we try to kick this thing off with. So in a way, I applaud them for it, because they've not done it up till now, and they've held it back, and now they're trying to use it. But it also feels like the implementation is a feature for a feature's sake, and 10 seconds. Forgive me, I'm not sure who said it, but yeah, 10 seconds is short enough. There's enough time for me to determine I have a typo. Not sure it's enough for me to determine that, that tweet really could be read the wrong way, and I think I'll better not do it.
What they should really do is anytime use like Grammarly's tone recognition engine, and if it's not positive, force you to wait 24 hours before you publish it.
I like that idea.
they've done stuff similar to that where if you don't actually click on a link and you just go to retweet it, it's like, whoa, are you sure you know what you're retweeting? And it's like, and they even have sentiment analysis. You can actually use Twitter's API and say, only show me tweets that are, or give me all of the tweets in this topic that are positive or negative. And Twitter is capable of doing that. So what I don't understand is, I mean, again, they should do that. It's a great feature. Why are they not doing this? Like, what is it that's
really
preventing
good
that
question.
from happening?
Yeah.
I mean, geez, we had chili pepper ratings in Eudora decades ago. I mean, why can't Twitter do that now?
Okay, so would you guys, if you had that feature, would you turn it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If I had it,
You've heard me talk.
Or for turning on for $3 a month.
yeah.
I don't think it's worth
I don't know
$3 a
which
month to
feature
me.
you're talking about. A bunch of ones got mentioned.
Undo.
Yeah,
Oh, undo.
I'm not
Well,
paying for that.
yeah, but I think what Mike was talking about, the Grammarly feature that, would you forgive me, Mike? What'd you call it, or what?
Well, that was a snarky one. Basically, if you're going to say something stupid, just wait 24 hours, and then if you want to say it, you can.
Honestly, that should just be built into the system because the people who need it most don't think they need it.
Yeah.
And actually 2 hours would probably be fine. As long as there's no reminder, do you still want to send it? You have to actively go find it in your drafts. That should just be a
like
safety feature for better Discord.
Yeah, but that means every tweet is going to be potentially delayed by 2 hours, unless you're saying,
not every tweet. Only the ones that have like enough anger sound in them by the AI algorithm.
Like, hey, Mike, you sound like a jerk with this. You sure you want to send it?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I'm a jerk.
And make you wait 2 hours and usually cooled down by then. And
I don't think that's going to happen because of what grabs attention: salaciousness, anger, frustration. If I can tweet the exact same thing twice and make one sound more negative and the other one sound more positive, the more negative one will get more response.
All these platforms have the same issue. How do you keep it engaging enough without actually getting in trouble by anybody?
Exactly. So
Maybe
you
it
see
should
it on YouTube, Facebook, like they're all the same, like, because that does get more attention.
Yep.
Would you all like to know why it gets more attention?
And this
Yes,
is why they're having so much trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, motivation
please.
is influenced by emotional processing. And the amygdala, which does much of your emotional processing and some memory processing, is more influenced by negative emotions than positive ones. It's easier for you to remember and be motivated to act on negative things.
That's so wrong, Brittany.
Emotional hijacking in action right there.
It makes me angry and I want to respond.
In terms of hijacking, yeah. Like, positive things are better long-term motivators, but like for impulsive behavior, absolutely negative.
Yep. Which is why they have so much trouble walking that line, and they don't know what to do with someone like the former president.
Until you get in trouble with somebody.
Yeah. And then say like a former president of the United States incites a riot, and then what do you do with that?
okay, so there's a word that I keep coming back to in my head, and nobody's used it here, and I'll use it. Does this qualify as some kind of censorship potentially?
I don't care.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part.
Absolutely
if it's
not.
private.
So they've all wanted to say like, we're not going to censor anybody, but they your hand is going to be forced at some point. When somebody encourages something bad enough, eventually you will jump in and you will say, that is not allowed on our platform. Okay, well, now you've opened the door, because what else is not allowed on your platform? And
that is a tricky problem, but I actually don't envy them.
Yes, that's a slippery slope.
But a delay is not censorship. A delay is offering somebody the opportunity to make a different choice or get distracted and forget about it. You can still post it. It's not censorship. You just have to remember to go back and post it.
Jeff, you were in there. I could not hear
Okay.
exactly what you said. Yes or no?
Frank,
Censorship.
you're
I
also
said
muted.
no. I mean, first off, a company like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, they can't censor you. That's what a government does. So what they can do is manipulate and control the speech and other forms of communication on their platform. How they choose to do that is up to them. And they can choose to do that in a socially responsible way or a socially irresponsible way. And the real trick is, how do you figure out how to do that so that you're actually doing it in a good way while maintaining your user base? Because Brittany has just explained why negative is going to keep us around, but positive is still better. So how do you balance that?
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that the negative catches us that much, and yet it's what we all complain about?
Well, it's
Frank,
like
you-
on the local news. I remember I worked at a TV station up in Allentown, and the line's always, if it bleeds, it leads. And it's weird because, people, I've heard people like, well, this is to go a little off track, but sort of in the same genre. People always say, why don't they show a lot of good news? They're always showing negative news. You want to know why?
It's not
Us.
news.
It's us, because when Ted Turner started TBS, every Saturday morning he had a show called Good News from 10:30 to 11. It got such abysmal ratings that they yanked it off the air. It wasn't even getting as good as repeats of like Bewitched.
Well, to be fair,
People
Bewitched
for
is a
some
good
reason
show.
like that. Yeah. But, well, no, think of people that go to like race car events like Daytona or something. You're going to tell me that those people in the back of their head aren't sort of hoping that maybe there'll be a pileup? I don't know why humans are wired that way, but humans are strange.
We are
Jay just-
complicated animals.
Yeah, Jay just said in the chat, Miller. Jay Miller just said in our private chat room, if you make money on being negative, it's hard to be positive, and that is absolutely true. It's unfortunate, but it's absolutely true.
Or if
And-
you're in the attention economy and you care about making money, it's hard to be positive.
Breed
And
to
there
the driver.
there is a place for positive discourse. I mean, it does happen, and when people do see it and it's entertaining to them, they will latch onto it. I mean, John, at the beginning of this whole pandemonium that has been 2020 and beyond, John Krasinski started a YouTube channel that was
Yes,
like
that
Positive
was
News
great.
Network,
And then he sold it.
yeah, and it was profitable. Now, I'm not going to say that he had more people than Twitter has active users watching it, but it did show that if you work to do something that is positive, you don't even have to make it look good. I mean, it was literally him in his office with like a little green screen thing. It was a simple process, but it was something that people felt they needed, and it was available and it was consistent.
But wasn't it sort of also, you have to give some of the credit to the audience, because he delivered a product that the audience needed at that time. I mean, if that pandemic never happened, he went and did that, it wouldn't have gotten the numbers, to be honest.
I think you're right, Frank. I think he had the right product at the right time, and he has a great personality and a great delivery, and that's what made his Good News Network successful, and good for him. And
no, really, I enjoyed it immensely. It was fantastic.
A lot of
It can be
people did.
done, but you can get away with being so much lazier and get the views with negativity. You have to be more creative and more effort. It's a little bit like I likes me a good swear, but anytime I see something that is nothing but, it just looks like lazy writing. And so it's a little bit like that.
Well, that's like if you listen to Chris Rock. Chris Rock, when he does his stand-up, he swears, or Eddie Murphy. It doesn't bother me because it just feels natural. That's the way they talk. But you can tell when somebody's forcing blue into their act just to get your attention.
But it can be
Get
done
me.
cleverly and lazily. Whereas the more positive side, and this is true in comedy, also, like you sort of have to work at it, or it has to be your shtick. It's just harder, and more props to the people doing it.
Isn't it interesting that, Frank, that this is called Twitter Blue? And yet
Did anybody else not think that immediately?
Hey,
That's the first thing I thought.
What about MacVoices Live Blue?
Yeah, well,
Is that
Mike,
after
that,
dark?
I have to say, and I don't want to sound like I'm a bad newsmonger by any means, but it would be one of the concerns I would have if we did go that direction and start having filters or Jeff, to the chili pepper ratings or something, that, does that potentially turn it into a Pollyanna kind of service that is not going to be nearly as interesting? And that's really sad. And I understand what I'm saying. It makes me sound bad, but I'm sorry. I don't want to see pictures of everybody's kids and cats. It's just,
That's what
This is what
Instagram's
they had
for.
for dinner.
But
Yeah.
again, I think that there's a balancing act here, right? I mean, some people can get so wound up that they get, so full of vitriol, and they, let off, F-bombs and even worse. And maybe 2 hours might be a little extreme. Maybe it should only be 30 minutes, but you can debate the number. But I think as a mechanism, this might be a way to tamp down, not just on Twitter, but on other channels as well. People posting stuff that in hindsight, they wish that they didn't post. And in hindsight, they know, gee, I really shouldn't have done that. But once it's out there, they have a public face, and ego gets in the way, and they can't say, no, I should not have posted that. So, I think as a mechanism, I think this approach bears a lot of discussion. The hard part is, what is the time limit? What is the time period?
I think this is the kind of thing that people need, but they don't want.
Right.
Yeah, nobody's paying for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to seek a more positive, fulfilled life, you should toggle on a feature like this. No one will do it. Because
Here's how you make money off that feature. You make it the default for everyone. And if you really don't want to have to wait, now you have to pay.
Sure. I mean, part of the problem here, I think, is with Twitter, you've got just text. So you don't have all the other aspects of communication, even that you have in a Zoom call like we have right now, where I can see people's faces and understand that Jay's just trying to rib me when he's talking about Google Slides being better than Keynote. But if you just have the text, like all you're left with is the message. That's problem number one. Problem number two, people are going to say stupid things whether they have access to social media or not.
But Mike,
Tuesday.
I would beg to differ that I think a lot of people, are embedding images in Twitter. So that's how they can post a big image that has a lot of words. They can get by character count limits, and because they can post that, they can use all the image editing tools out there to create really compelling images. So, I think that we need to recognize it's more of and even people are posting a lot of animated GIFs. So, I think Twitter is a full. I mean, it's a full full audio visual media system. So,
I agree with you. I guess what I'm saying is it's still a written, published form instead of a vocal form. Like emoji is another way that you can add additional context to what you're saying, and you can communicate something like sarcasm. Still much, much harder when you have to craft a tweet with that, though, than just talking to your buddy, face to face. But ultimately, I do think,
true, especially if you're trying to be sarcastic with people who you do not know well.
Exactly.
Right. Just like when you send a message through messages, or if you have an instant message, when I send instant messages at work using messaging software, you send those messages, you don't know how the people are going to take it. We throw the emojis in to kind of lighten things up, but you got to be careful what you say. I mean, believe me, I always think twice, especially at work. When you're typing something out, you got to think about, okay, I mean, they may take that the wrong way if you don't say it in a way that's going to be a positive spin on it. So,
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
don't
If you
see
have
the
a
other
personal
person on the
experience.
other end of your tweets.
Right.
So you throw it out there and you're like, I just got to get this off my chest. And you don't see what sort of impact it has on the other person.
Right.
I'm reading this book right now, Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And it's kind of all about this, like the circle of safety and the trust that develops when you have real communication. And this isn't real communication because you're just sending out a message, and a real communicator is going to care how that message is received.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be the first to admit too. I'll use Twitter sometimes to vent towards a company that I do business with. You know, a good example would be like Comcast. If I have a problem with Comcast, I'm going to go on to Comcast Cares and say, hey, why is this happening? Why are you doing this? You know, I've done it with T-Mobile. I've done it with many other vendors like that, and Apple too. I don't know if Apple's going to answer.
Last week
but,
I got Apple.
but
That's for
you
the
know,
discounts, though.
Yeah. So I mean, but that they have professional people that are doing their social media monitoring all day long, and that's what it's there for. And I think we're in a world now that actually helps us as consumers, and being able to get help with something that we generally are not being helped with, and publicly saying, hey, why is this happening?
But isn't it? Well, this will take us in a whole nother direction that we don't want to go. But it's too bad that we have to get to that point where we have to.
It is
borderline shame anybody into solving a problem. But you know, it's a method of getting your way, and there's no doubt about it. I don't like it. It's not. I'm not going to tell you I haven't done it. I feel like I've done it, but at least for me, it's been a matter of last resort. You know, you try to approach somebody professionally and say, hey, can you help me? And if they're professional, hopefully they will say, I'll take a shot at it and try. But you know,
yeah,
too
but he
many
said
people,
Comcast, so they're never going to address it professionally.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, Brittany, I know you're being a little sarcastic there, and unfortunately, I've had more bad Comcast experiences than good, but I have had some good ones. You know, I want to be fair about it. So,
and I am always happy when they pleasantly surprise me, but we worked really hard to not have Comcast here and don't have another choice. And I love my other house where there is a choice, and it's awesome and way better internet and cheaper.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not about Comcast. I just had to.
Yeah. After beating the Twitter subscription plan to death, the MacVoices Live panel moved on to some of the recent Amazon stories, considered whether Apple missed an opportunity by not buying a movie studio, and a few other things as well. So catch up with us on the next edition of MacVoices when those are the topics. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.